The book, The Only Plane in the Sky, an oral history of 9/11, tells the story of individuals affected by the events that occurred nearly 20 years ago. What struck the author was the sheer randomness of how the day unfolded, who lived, who died, who was touched, who was escaped. Life may appear random. A close examination of any single day would demonstrate the same characteristics. For the Christian convinced that God's sovereign providential care rules the world, randomness evaporates. Suddenly we are aware that God is at work in innumerable ways at any one time and any one event. Coincidences and randomness are both the outworking of God's providential purposes and say more about the perspective of us as observers than about the reality of his care. The consequence of this recognition of God's good hand is to give us the instinct to perceive what God is doing. The complex impacts of COVID-19 pandemic afford the chance to try this on a large scale. What is God doing? Well, most importantly, we're reminded that God answers prayer. As a diocese, we're committed during the last 14 months to asking God to show his mercy in halting the pandemic so that lives would not be lost and in enabling a vaccine to be successfully developed. God is answering our prayers. Now we are hopefully getting to the other side of the pandemic. What have we learnt? Our hearts should be filled with thanks that whatever extraordinary human ingenuity there is in developing vaccines and then managing the extraordinary logistical endeavour to distribute them around the world, the overall success in suppressing COVID-19 depends on the common grace that comes from God. This is indeed God's world, and we do not have a firm grasp on determining how the world should bend towards fitting in with our plans. We can easily have the false confidence that our scientific and technological competence means that we can deal with whatever circumstances may arise. While we are thankful that we live in a time of such extraordinary advances, on their own they are unable to give us the certainty we want about what the future will look like. As always, it is only apprehending the mercy of God that we are safe. What has changed for the church? As we enter the post-COVID period, will churches be different? Streaming or live streaming church gatherings will likely be an ongoing tool used by most churches. It can be for the new front door for non-believers to observe the church and to hear the gospel. It enables shut-ins to maintain a connection with a church they belong to in a way not previously possible. The downside of streaming is that it can easily pander to a consumer mentality and lead to a casual attitude towards attendance and commitment. It is likely online meetings will be useful in some areas of church life, such as the occasional small group leaders catch up, the unexpected wardens meeting or parish council meeting, or the provision of an evangelistic course. Most significantly, the limitations of our screens have reminded people of the importance of the gathered community as the expression of belonging. Face-to-face engagement with one another is still the priority of God's people.